Panther Wakanda Forever is directed by Ryan Coogler and written by him as well. It stars Letitia Wright, Lupita Nyong'o, Angela Bassett, Martin Freeman, and a bunch of other people. And it tells the story of Shuri and the Wakandans trying to go through the grieving process of losing their king T'Challa from an illness. And all while a new group of people led by Namor is trying to take down Wakanda and the entire world and get them to kneel before them. And they're going to fight back and protect their country. Now, I love the first Black Panther, though the CGI at the very end needed a little bit more work. We could all be honest. I thought the story and pacing of that film was excellent. The directing was really well done. The acting and performances and themes and everything. I thought almost everything about the movie, apart from the CGI, was really, really good. And it stood out amongst the MCU, especially in the Infinity Saga. This movie had a tough road. Losing Chadwick Boseman in such early development, it was tragic. And considering that they had a finished script, or at least almost a finished script, if I remember correctly, I think it was kind of challenging for them to come up with a new story on the spot and how they're going to continue the story along. They were choosing not to recast T'Challa, which they eventually chose not to. There's a bit of controversy around the idea that I could understand very well, but they chose this road, and we just gotta see how it turns out. And after watching the movie, I have to say, I think they were able to come up with the best possible solution to how to continue the story without Chadwick Boseman's T'Challa, and to bring Shuri into the mantle of Black Panther as confirmed in the trailers. I think it was handled really well, and I think that her being the new lead of Black Panther actually worked out pretty well, because we see her journey throughout the film, and it was something that I wished a bit more MCU projects lately could have done more. I mean, some have done so, but it explored a lot of imperfections with a female-led character. Because this is essentially a female-led film. But Marvel had a bad track record of female-led projects lately. They've not been able to tell stories that have female leads really go through challenges or hardships. Sometimes, most of the time, they just feel too perfect at everything, like Captain Marvel or She-Hulk. And I'm just never able to relate to the characters. Because of what Shuri's going through in this story, and how the story is being told around her and the characters, of them going through a bunch of grief and loss, and it actually explores a lot of the darker sides within her character, especially in her head. I felt like Shuri, in terms of female-led characters in the MCU, is probably the best one so far. And I think Letitia Wright, if I said her name correctly, did a really good job in the performance part of the character. I think her character's performance here was really good. And so was everyone else. I thought Lupita Nyong'o was really good once again. But Angela Bassett, she is worthy of an Oscar for supporting actress. I have to say that, as I wish she had more scenes in the movie, but to be quite honest, I felt like all the scenes that she had was warranted well enough for her to get at least a nomination for Best Supporting Actress. If this ever gets nominated for an Oscar like the first Black Panther, I would love for the performances to actually get a highlight here. Also, The soundtrack is once again a banger. I love the soundtrack once again. Also the sounds for Namor City underwater, I absolutely loved, and the actual songs being played throughout, I thought fit all very well. For some reason, Black Panther always had the best soundtracks out of any of the MCU projects. Overall, the soundtrack is a banger. And as for the CGI, it's better. Okay, to be honest, it's really good and a lot better than the first film. I will say in terms of improvements from the first film, the CGI and visuals all looked so much better here than before, and the cinematography is really, really beautiful and captured a lot of Wakandan much more beautifully than the first film. And in terms of improvements, I would say that is basically about it. And the story itself, this is where it kind of has a bit of problems. And it's mostly due to pacing and a certain character. I love the stories and themes and how it tried to explore grief. And a lot of people will call this a slow burn, and some would say it's boring. Um, I quite like how slow it is. And also, I quite like how it doesn't decide to throw jokes at every single serious moment. And because it was able to hold back on the jokes, I was able to take the conversations these characters are having real seriously. They felt like real conversation. There was a joke cracked between those conversations. It's not played up like a typical MCU joke. I mean, sometimes it is in the middle, around the middle of the film, when it becomes like bit of a standard MCU movie, but in the beginning and end, when there are serious conversations being told, they keep the tone seriously and well intact. But around the middle portion of the film is where the story kind of falters a bit. Because sometimes the pacing is too slow, and to me that is due to a certain character, and that is Ironheart. Now, Dominica Thorne, if I pronounced her name correctly, and I'm sorry if I didn't, um, I didn't have a problem with her performance. It's just her character felt more like a plot device and something to move the story forward from point A to point B, and she had no real character development. She just felt like a MacGuffin, something like the Tesseract. It's also a problem that I had with America Chavez earlier this year with Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and it's once again a problem here. She is something that all the characters are after and are trying to protect or take away. And to be honest, they could have written the movie in a way that would have not involved her, and it still would have worked. And I felt like her inclusion was just there to set up her own TV show. And that really bothered me, and it really brought the pacing down of the film. And you could cut her out and lose like 10 minutes, maybe, and the pacing would have been better. And that leads to my other problem. The movie is just too long. I'm fine with long movies, but this is one of those movies where I felt like being shorter could have helped it a whole lot and could have streamlined it a lot better. Also, Martin Freeman's character is also once again back, but he's not as important to the story, and I felt like you could cut him out as well. Maybe only give him one scene, maybe, but after that, you could just do something else with him and not involve him anymore. Um, but overall, I I have to say those are like the only problems I have with the movie, and I put a lot of emphasis on them because I know this movie was doing so hard to be a good movie. The director has done a really good job once again, Ryan Coogler. Though I would say this is probably my least favorite of his films. Creed is still probably my favorite of what he's done. Like, I love Fruitvale Station, I love Black Panther, and I really enjoyed this movie. But Creed, you gotta watch it. It's his best work. Um, but yeah, there was a few improvements with the visuals and CGI. The story could have been retooled a little bit and needed a little bit more revisions before being filmed. But overall, I have to say, for what the filmmakers were trying to do and due to the circumstances they were in, and how they tributed Chadwick Boseman in the beginning and the end of the film, I thought was really beautiful. And I think they handled it all really well. It's just not as good as the first film, but that doesn't mean it's not a good movie. I still really enjoyed it, and I still had a lot of fun at the theaters. And I felt like the tribute to Chadwick Boseman, as I said, was warranted and beautiful. And I had to be honest, I would recommend it. As much as I've been disappointed with the MCU lately, this is one of those projects where I could say that I had a good time with. And for this being the last of Phase 4, I'm happy with what I got. I'm going to give Black Panther Wakanda Forever a B+. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you guys next time.
I'm addicted to the